Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bitcoin for Family show, where every guest is your new BFF. That's your Bitcoin friend forever. I'm Scott from Shamray, and it's an honor to have you here as always. Thanks to everyone that's been watching and listening, sharing. I hope you are finding the show fun, engaging. We'll keep doing it as long as you like it. So now on to today's show. Our guest today is not only an accomplished Bitcoin author and speaker, but most importantly, has been learning the ropes of being a first-time dad over the past year plus. So let's welcome our good friend Jesse Berger to the show. Jesse, how you doing?
I'm doing amazing, Scott. Thank you so much for having me.
No, it's a pleasure to have you on. When I was starting to create the show, you're definitely somebody that popped in my head to have you on for the first time, and going back to some of the first times we talked pre-kids. I had my daughter, but you didn't have your daughter yet. But I know you were an uncle at the time, and getting Shamray stuff for him and doing that sort of stuff. I remember exchanging. I actually have it here. So here's actually the book that Jesse sent me for those watching on video. Got the autograph and everything. So when Jesse and I first met, his book and our card game came out pretty much around the same time. And so we did a little exchange where I sent the game up there, Jesse sent the book down here. And so being able to go on that journey together over the past 5+ years, which is crazy, has been fun. And so before we dive into kind of the questions and everything, maybe tell the audience a little bit about yourself, your family, how old your daughter is, and whatever you're comfortable sharing, and then we can head into the actual questions.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, number one, thanks for having me and great to be talking to you again. Like you said, we we sort of have this relationship dating back. It's like 5 years now, where it started with the book and Shamray, and we commiserate over our baseball teams and all sorts of other stuff. So yeah, great to be here. Like you said, I wrote my book, Magic Internet Money, a book about Bitcoin. I self-published it in 2020. Prior to that, I worked in banking as a retail banker and then investment advisor. I was also a management consultant for a couple of years. I ran the entire market research program for one of Canada's largest insurance companies for a couple of years. Found Bitcoin, Austrian economics, all that came together, and here I am now. And currently I'm working at Bitcoin Mentor, where, we teach people how to Bitcoin, as opposed to, the book is more of the why to Bitcoin, right? The orange pill is the why of it all. And, now I work, getting your hands dirty using hardware devices and running nodes and all that stuff to learn how this stuff actually works. And in terms of family, yeah, as you were saying, I really enjoyed the job of being an uncle when we first met for a couple of years, because you get to have all the fun without any of the responsibility, right? You do all the play, but you never have to change any diapers or put them to bed or deal with the crying. And now I'm the father of a 1.5-year-old girl who, just brightens my day every day. I, love being a dad to her. I love doing all the dad stuff, including changing all the diapers and dealing with the cries when it happens. It seemed like a chore from the uncle perspective, but once it's your own baby, it doesn't feel like a chore, right? It just you're just giving love all the time. It comes in different forms. So that's sort of my big new adventure right now, is having fun being a dad, and knock on wood, won't be the last time I'll be a dad.
Very nice, and we can share tips over having the second one come along and what that chaos involves as well. But yeah, co-sign everything you said there. It's a fun journey that keeps you on your toes every day, and we'll dive more into that as we get along. Let's dive first, start on the fun side of things. A few icebreakers just to spice it up. So for those who don't know, Jesse grew up in Canada. You must have had some probably crazy winter storms and that sort of stuff as you were growing up as a kid, no undoubt. So thinking back to when you were a kid, do you have any funny or memorable moments from braving a crazy winter storm?
From braving crazy winter storms, I
Or
have.
mishap, slipping on the ice, whatever it may be.
Yeah, I don't think I had any like terrible falls or anything in Toronto. So we're south for Canada where I am. Still had, every couple of years you get a crazy snowstorm. Most recently, this past winter was brutal. I I did the most shoveling of a driveway I've ever done in any given year, which takes a toll on the old dad bod. Um, I mean, I just remember like snow days, tobogganing down, hills at local parks, or, every now and then if the snows as a kid, it's up to your waist or something, which, for now it's like, okay, that might be up to my knees today and not that bad. I just always loved when you get a lot of fresh snow, and then maybe it sits for like a day or two, or maybe you get a little bit of precipitation, like a little bit of rain on top of it. And basically you get this little, not icy layer, but just like a crispier layer on top, and below it is soft. And you could like step in and you hear this little crunch as you step in. These little sensations I always enjoyed about the winter, and I still, the inner kid in me still enjoys when you get that. But really when it's like nice and fresh and just level, white, clean, because after, I live in a city, I live in Toronto. After a period of time, it gets dirty and brown because cars are going by. Um, but yeah, in terms of the snow or winter or whatever, we'd have snow days here and there where you get to have time off. You build a snowman in the yard or something. So I have little memories like that, but nothing that like really stands out. Actually, sorry, now that I'm talking out loud, I'm thinking out loud. I I grew up, in one area, from grade 2 onwards, let's say. But from like kindergarten to grade 2, I lived in this other house that was the end of a cul-de-sac, so it was like a dead end. And in the middle of that like dead end, right, you have sort of the big round concrete area with all the houses around it. And so all the snow would pile into the middle. And I remember vividly now as a kid, the parents dug out a bunch of tunnels in this like big snow ice mound. And as, again, I'm 5, 6 years old, I guess, at this point, climbing through those little tunnels. They felt so huge as a kid. I'm sure if I were to look back on that mound, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's okay. That's a good size mound. But that was really cool. Like having those kind of experiences as a kid, you feel like you're going on little adventures. Um,
That's a good one.
yeah,
I
that's
can
something
imagine.
that now that I'm talking about it, that sort of
Yep.
is coming back to mind and sticking out.
I can imagine how big those tunnels must have felt at the time, uh, climbing through there. And good thing no one caved on you also, so you're still
Yeah,
around.
totally.
Perfect. Okay, sticking kind of with the Toronto theme. So let's pretend my family is up there visiting,
Yep.
and you want to show off the hometown. What's the one must-eat Canadian dish or spot you'd take us to?
Ooh, good question. Well, I mean, as both baseball fans, we'll say the extra spot you should go to would be we'll go see a Jays game with the dome
Yes.
open. You can't see it with the roof closed. It
Okay.
it doesn't feel the same when you can see the sky, it's blue. You have the CN Tower right there. It actually feels like a ballpark when the dome's closed, not so much. Um, but other than that, come to Toronto, where's like a really key or fun site that would really resonate? I mean, High Park is beautiful. There's a little zoo. It's sort of like a big park that's downtown. You could equate it to Central Park, but not nearly the scale of Central Park. So just a beautiful area to walk around in the springtime. For my wife's birthday just a couple weeks ago, we went and it was right at cherry blossom season. There's a whole bunch of cherry blossoms that were planted. I believe they were donated. I forget like what organization in Japan or whatever had donated them many moons ago. But every year the park just gets swarmed for the weekend where these flowers are in bloom. And so we were there just the other week, and like just absolute peak bloom. You have these beautiful sort of pinky white flowers coming out of these trees. Eventually it'll just be all green. But for like one week, it's just beautiful flowers and they're everywhere. And so the park is just a beautiful space to see. And, you can walk around with the kids. There's a little restaurant there. And like I said, there's a little zoo there too. So my 1.5-year-old, we're seeing a yak and goats and peacocks and all kinds of cool animals that she's never laid eyes on before. So that would be a cool thing to see.
Perfect. So it sounds like since it just bloomed, we can time it perfectly with the baseball season anyway. So
Yeah,
1-2 punch. So
there
we're,
you
we're
go.
good to go. Next summer, or excuse me, next spring.
Yeah, next spring, exactly.
We'll be there. Okay, number 3, and actually perfect timing. You didn't know I was asking you this question next, but you mentioned you and I have bonded over baseball over the years, the Blue Jays and the Padres. So if you could transform yourself into a superstar baseball player, what position would you play and why?
Okay, well, in Canada, we play softball more than hardball. So it's like modified pitching as opposed to overhand. It's underhand, but we have a strike zone. It's not the big lob ball softball. We call it modified, where you actually pitch to a strike zone. I play shortstop. I'm an infielder. So, I mean, if I was to transform into a player, it would actually be Cal Ripken, because that's who I watched growing up and thought was just the GOAT and one of the best of all time, Iron Man of baseball. TikTok next game for Cal, right? He holds the record for the most consecutive games played by like, he basically played like 17 straight seasons without missing a single game to injury or whatever it was. And so I, thought of him as like the best and the player I sort of looked up to when I was growing up. The Jays had great players too, obviously, but I wear number 8 on my baseball team for Cal Ripken because that was his number. So I still wear his number. So that's who I would be.
Yeah, he definitely put in the proof of work.
But yeah.
Funny that you're picking a rival of the Blue Jays to be the player, but hey, whatever
Yeah.
works.
Yeah. Yeah. It's odd, but like he was, a big name, a star. Like when I was growing up, he was, let's say, in the second half of his career as I was becoming like an interested baseball fan. So I got to see him for a number of years before he retired. And, he was a guy that everyone seemed to look up to and played the game right. And obviously was a star. He was an all-star. He was a World Series champion. He accomplished everything he could hope to accomplish in a career and just seemed like a gentleman of the sport, which there seems to be fewer of them these days. There's good sportsmen, but, I like the way, he just went about ho-hum, next TikTok, next play, whatever it might be, right?
Yep.
I
No,
like that
exactly.
approach. Yeah.
No, personal connection also since him and Tony Gwynn went into the Hall of Fame the same year. And I was back in Cooperstown to watch that happen. So personal connection there to Cal also.
Nice.
Okay, next one. If you and the family could escape the wintertime in Canada each year magically, where would you go and why?
We would probably go to Mexico. So my wife speaks a little bit of Spanish, despite she's not, of Spanish origin or Latin origin or anything like that. We went to Mexico for our honeymoon. We'd both been there previously, but not to the country, I should say. But we had never been to Mexico City, and we went to a few other places while we were there. I think we both love the culture. The weather is obviously very different from Canada. She loves, tacos and guacamole and hot sauce and all these things. So the diet, the food is right, the temperature is right. You get the beach, you get the hills if you want it. You get history, culture, right? It's a beautiful country, and from Toronto, it's not too far. So that would be where we would go.
Very nice. No, I co-signed that one too, especially being here in San Diego. It's an easy one for us to get to. So.
Yeah, you're a hop, skip, and a jump away over there.
Exactly. It makes it easy. So we'll meet you down there when that happens. Okay, last one for the fun side. So your daughter, as you mentioned, is a year and a half. So already has a spunky personality, I'm sure, running the show. What's one of the kind of funnier ways that she's, through her personality, kind of asserted her tiny authority that comes to mind?
Ooh, okay. I wouldn't actually say that my daughter has asserted her authority so much. I'm lucky. She's like really laid back and easygoing and sort of goes along with things that, like any kid, she's gonna be upset and want something at any given point sometimes. But like generally speaking, she's really laid back. But I'll say just when it comes to me, she basically gets whatever she wants. She can just come out to me and she does this thing where she like cocks her head to the side and smiles like, little cute thing. And when she does that, it just melts me and just, okay, you want a cookie? I'm like, I'm trying to cut back on I don't want to give you, sugars and candy and whatnot, but you go cookie and just, what am I going to, I'm powerless at that point. So I guess her cuteness is her asserting her authority over me.
Yes. That's the most powerful one. So
that's the most powerful one for sure.
Yep, definitely know that. No, Zoe does that same head turn sort of thing to give a hug, and then she can have whatever she wants. So totally get that one there. So
yeah,
awesome. Great time with the Icebreaker. So now let's get to know Jesse and the family maybe a little deeper. So like we mentioned a few times, you grew up in Canada, and now being a father of one, are there any kind of family traditions from your childhood or even your wife's childhood that you guys have brought into the family that you guys really cherish, or use those to kind of create a new one with a twist maybe?
My wife and I both have very tight-knit families. So we are trying and like definitely make an effort to spend a lot of time with, my brother and his kids, and now my wife's sisters and brother. But her sisters have kids as well. One of them has twins actually that are just a few months younger than my daughter. So definitely making a lot of time for family was a priority for me growing up in terms of my parents we'd have Sunday night dinners with my dad's parents religiously at every Sunday when I was growing up. And now, we're sort of doing that with my mom, pardon me, with my wife's family. So keeping up sort of Sunday night dinners. And the reason it's sort of her family on Sundays is because we spend a lot of the weekend, especially in the summer, with my family. We have a cottage, and in Toronto and Canada, cottaging is a big sort of tradition. And, if you're lucky enough to have one, which my family is, we drive an hour north to the lake, and there's me, my wife, my daughter, my brother, his wife, his two kids, and my parents in this little 3-bedroom bungalow. And y'all just pack in and make it work, because it's fun to spend time together. So we're sort of creating new traditions up there. I've taken on the role of, okay, just every Saturday night, I barbecue, I cook dinner. That's my jam. We'll have a drinks, we'll make a fire, roast marshmallows, all that kind of stuff. So that, because we never had a cottage growing up, that's definitely becoming a new tradition for us. And, I think everyone really, really enjoys it. And yeah, right now we're still, because my daughter's so young, my daughter is the oldest of my wife's side kids, because there's now 3 cousins to my daughter on the other side, on my wife's side. Everyone's still finding, okay, their footing, with the one sister having twins and another sister having a daughter that's 2 months old. So, they're just getting into the groove of being a parent, and soon enough, I'm sure we'll start to figure out exactly what works in terms of traditions. But I feel quite strongly that keeping something like a Sunday night dinner tradition alive will happen.
Nice. No, it's lucky to have all the family close by and
Yeah,
let the cousins grow up together. We're the same way, being able to have all of our family on both sides are all around. And I see Charlotte and Zoe have 4 cousins, all between the ages of 4 months and 7 years.
yeah.
So get to get together and play and let them run the show. So
It's
um,
it's really nice to have just everyone in the same city. And, while it's not always easy to get together every week, let's say, everyone puts in an effort to make it happen, because it's important that, your kids grow up with people they know and can rely on. And, family comes first.
yeah,
So
exactly. I assume it's when you were a kid, it was similar, grew up with the cousins and everything, that sort of stuff.
yeah, some of my cousins are like my siblings, basically, right? Like, I just, I have a couple that are literally born within 2 months of me. That I would see them every Sunday night at my grandparents' pool in their backyard, and that's where we would go, and where we grew up. So very close with a bunch of my cousins, and looking forward to my daughter having that same or similar experience.
Yep, no, for sure. And you kind of you mentioned traveling, both in your earlier to Mexico or an hour trip up to the cottage or anything in between. So it's something we're passionate about in our family. Many Bitcoiners are being able to get out, experience the world, learn that way. Obviously, once you transition from traveling as a couple to traveling with kids, it's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, it's more of a relocation than a vacation, right?
Yes,
But but you do it for the kids.
exactly.
Yeah.
You do it for the kids and you do it to have fun.
Yeah.
Many times, once you're there, you're good. But it's that lead up to the trip can be the chaos, making sure you got everything packed and ready to go. As you guys have learned to travel over the past year and a half with the kid, any tips or tricks that you guys have come across?
I mean, the furthest we've traveled with my daughter is a 3-hour flight down to Florida. So we've done that twice now. I'm lying. That's not true at all. I like, again, dad brain here. We went to Dominican Republic, which I guess is a 4.5 or 5-hour flight, just a couple months ago. Sorry, that was our most recent trip. She was an absolute trooper on the way down. We had to get up super early. Fine. She's, babies, you wake them up in the morning, they're just kind of chill and whatever and go with it. But the flight got delayed a bunch of hours. And so we're stuck at the airport, and nap time's all screwed up. And then we're on the 5-hour flight. She was the most calm, like more so than, we had 10 and 12-year-old kids, because it was my brother's sister-in-law who also came along. So we had like a sort of extended family trip. And, her kids, who are, like I said, 10 or 11, like they had a harder time than my baby going down. The way back was a different story. She was a little more upset. The tips and tricks, I'll give you one actually that came in handy for us. We bought these little spinner things. It's like a little suction cup in the middle. You could probably buy them. I think we bought them off Amazon, and you just stuck them to the window of the airplane. And my daughter, again, at the time, she's just over 1 year old. She would have been 15 months, let's say, again, because this was a couple months ago. Just smack this thing, see it spinning on the window, and you'd be amazed at how much time that kills. We've also been really good I guess, so far about having basically no screen time. At 18 months so far, my daughter's had no screen time. And I realize like I'm not going to be able to keep this up forever, most likely, but I got to keep it going while I can. So both flights, zero screen time. And yeah, that means she needs a little more, one-on-one attention, but she's also not, fussed when she doesn't have a screen because she doesn't know from not having it. So for any new parents, if you can somehow avoid the screen time, hold off as long as possible. Your kid will keep their attention focused on, life in front of them as opposed to just pining for this, little box of, bright flickering lights.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
And also the other tip from our end would be, when it relates to traveling, start as soon as possible so you get used to it.
Yeah.
Uh, don't let the fact of traveling with a little one scare you off from doing things. The more you do it, the more comfortable it'll be. It'll never be the same thing twice. Once you add a second one, it's a whole nother layer. Charlotte was similar in the sense that she was easy to travel with from the beginning. Zoe's another ball game. She's probably about 50% good, 50% bad on the airplane on her
Okay.
flight so far. So you never know what you're going to get with her. So it could be terrifying for the parents, if you know what I mean. The good news is the plane always lands. So
Yeah.
you'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, once you're in there, you just figure it out. If they're having trouble, you walk up and down the aisles. It's always very cute when you see a little kid walking up down the aisle because they want to go hi to everyone, right? If they're bored, they need to stretch their legs too. Just like if we sit around too long, you get restless. Kids are the same. You try to keep that in mind when you got to put yourself in their shoes a little bit.
And every once in a while, if they're bad on the plane, it can come in handy for some free wine. That has happened to us as well. When
Oh, there you go.
a trip
Yeah.
to Costa Rica took pity on Mallory as she was walking up and down the aisle many times and slipped some bottles in her pocket. So, there can be some benefits.
Oh yeah, get on the plane early, and also so we went on a kind of baby moon when my wife was pregnant before we had the baby. It was sort of one last trip that's just the two of us, and walking around with this big belly, and we were in Portugal, was great because everyone's come to the front, come and see this exhibit, do that. Oh, you're pregnant, let's get you off your feet, whatever. It was great. So highly recommend, take advantage of both the pregnancy and the baby. There are perks to it.
Yes, definitely are. No, all good stuff there. And then also in the lines of planning, you mentioned enjoying cooking earlier, barbecuing. The meal planning on a day-to-day for families can be a chore, can be a juggle. Some people like cooking, some people don't. It sounds like you possibly do, which is a good thing. So is there some tips around kind of that planning structure that you guys do around meals? And also it can be a battle getting stuff that the little ones want to eat. So anything around that you guys have learned over the past year and a half?
Yeah, I have I think some decent thoughts on that, or at least in my experience so far. Once you get past introducing foods and solids to a kid, and they're starting to need solid food on a regular basis, or just having a couple meals a day, we basically, I get up, I make eggs every morning for all of us, which is great. I've mastered. I have like 7 fried eggs in one big pan. I've mastered. My wife likes them a little harder. I like the yolk runny. I get both sides perfect, close enough to perfect every morning. So, I really like that we're feeding her eggs every morning, and that's just becoming her norm and her standard because there's obviously good nutritional value there. But in terms of the planning side of it, we, try to plot out, if not the whole week, it's sort of up to Wednesday or Thursday or Friday every Sunday. And, we go do our big grocery run, which is obviously common in many households. But one thing we do specifically for my daughter is every dinner, I'm overcooking a little bit because I don't want her to just eat, cereal and snacks or a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or whatever it might be for lunch. I want good home cooked meals, but obviously I don't want to cook lunch as well as dinner every time. So every dinner we overdo it on food a little bit so that she has a lunch the next day. And that's been working out really, really well for us because then, I don't have to cook anything. It's already there and done. And we just serve it to her. And I know she's getting good food. And, we're focusing, as you might expect, like I mentioned eggs before, but eggs and different meats, nutrient-dense foods. I'm not going to be super, super strict. Okay, we're no cookies and no carbs, or, it's not like that. I understand she's going to explore. She needs to explore. the different food options, and we serve her a little bit of everything, but we keep the focus on, I think, what's good, so that hopefully her taste buds are going to develop where this is the stuff she wants and needs, and she realizes that, oh, I feel better when I have this versus if I, go ham on a bag of chips or a bag of cookies, then, oh, I'm going to feel terrible later. And so we want to try to instill that in her a little bit, and it's so far seems to be working.
Yep. No, we got to start early there, and
Yeah.
definitely the meal planning starting on the weekend
And
works out.
and also I'll add, our daughter, not only is she eating our food, like the same food as us, so I've never had to cook something special, or very rarely should I say, that I'm like cooking something just for her, and then my wife and I will have something different for dinner. We want her to eat all the same food we're eating. And we eat at the same time as her. So our dinner time, whereas we used to eat at maybe 7 or 7:30, we're eating at like 5:30, most days. And it's okay. We adapt, because that way we eat with her. She's included at the dinner table. That makes her more likely to eat her meals, because she sees mom and dad eating the exact same food she's eating. So I definitely, recommend you may have to make your own little sacrifices, but for her or your son, your best interest, I think it'll be worth it in the long run.
For sure, and definitely have that family time, just like the Sunday family dinners that you're having. Have it every
Yeah,
night, just the three of you,
yeah,
and have that time together is important, not only just for the food, but to be together as a family.
yeah.
And another tip from our side of things, we always double up on food, try to have one meal last 2 days, and that sort of stuff. But as they get older and they can kind of pick out foods, especially on the lunch, you'll be surprised. Sometimes a non-picky eater turns picky eater, or vice versa. Who knows? But one thing we've done at Mallory's lead, she can take credit for this one, but she created a lunch menu for Charlotte,
Okay.
and so it's just a sheet of different healthy options that she can always pick out, that are stuff that's always in her house for the most part, and get them control over what it is they're going to eat for that meal. That's something else that we've found fairly helpful when it comes to kind of as you get a little bit older there, and they want to have an opinion about things more so than what they are now.
Yeah, exactly. We're starting to see, obviously, with my daughter, that she has opinion. Sometimes she likes one food one day and then she doesn't like it the next, and then she'll pick it back up again the next day, right? We're seeing these things with like, okay, like, I thought I had a read on you, but maybe I don't, but maybe I do. So, just learning her and figuring out what she wants. And she's not old enough yet, but I am very curious to get to sort of the stage you're at where, okay, she'll want a hand in what she's eating, and she'll want to say in what she's eating. And again, training with a low tide preference for toddlers. Okay, daddy doesn't have the entire grocery store in the fridge, right? At any given time, you might want pizza, but we might not have, the ingredients to make you a pizza. So getting her to, if we can try to figure out how she can think a day or two ahead, not too far ahead for starters. Let's just get a day or two ahead when the time comes. I'm curious for different strategies on that. So the menu idea sounds like a good one.
No,
That maybe I'll have to pick your brain on more later.
Yeah, exactly. All those little things that come in handy. And I'm sure many people listening are probably saying things to themselves that are helpful as well. So feel free to drop them in the comments. And, everything's a balancing act, whether it's food or whatnot. And you've transitioned from, you mentioned the banking to writing your book, and now doing the consulting work, all while raising a kid now. How do you find that work-life balance? I know you're working at home, and valuing being able to always be around your daughter over the past 18 months. Kind of touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, I consider myself, very fortunate. If I was stuck in my old fiat ways, if we want to think of it that way, would I have time? I'm predominantly the cook in my house. Like, would I have had time to figure out how to cook, number one? But then get to spend enough time with my daughter. If I had to go into an office from 9 to 5 every day, plus a commute wherever it is, what time does she wake up? What time does she go to bed? I'm going to spend half an hour with her every day. You know, I don't know how some of my friends did it, because I'm a little late to the party having kids. I was 39 when she was born. So I think to myself, my goodness, like, how did they just barely see their own children for, the whole week? And then they're probably exhausted anyway, and the weekend rolls around and it's just another job when they wake up. I feel really, really, really lucky that, Bitcoin. I saw a meme. Sorry, I'm going to give some context here. I saw a great meme recently, in video games where you have those like power bars of like your power for this is up to maximum, or if you think of like NHL hockey, like your goalie is 90% and your offense is 80% and your defense is 85% or whatever. So there was a meme of a kid, call him a teenager. The energy bar is full as a kid. The time bar is full because you're not like at a job or whatever, but no money. The money bar was empty. And then you have the person in their midlife where energy is still there. You know, if you're 40 years old, you have a couple kids, whatever, your energy is still there. Your money is you're more flush, you're working, you're higher, you know, you're getting towards your peak career. But your time is very scarce. You don't have much because you're working hard and you're juggling multiple things. And then you have the elderly person who, okay, now they have time again. And now they have all the money, but they have no energy because they're sort of the tail end of their life. And then you have the Bitcoiner who has all three on full, who has time, energy, and money. And so I'm really lucky because I'm the Bitcoiner who a little bit of time, a little bit of, time, yes, and then money. Thankfully, you know, Bitcoin's been very helpful in freeing my time from sort of the corporate chains, where for the last 18 months I've been at home and my hours are more or less flexible. And, you know, if I don't work a full week, that's okay. And all that means is I'm going to be spending more time with my daughter. And, you know, that bonding time I might not have had otherwise. And, you know, we have a very special relationship as all parents do with their kids. But it just feels really, really special that like I'm never pulled in a direction away from her. If I'm with her, I can just give her all my attention and I don't have to have my phone on me. I mean, obviously it's in my pocket, you know, but I don't have to focus on it and I'm not distracted. I can really give her my attention and, you know, I get to see her light up and that just lights me back up. So I've been really lucky like that. And, you know, if you ever have the chance to spend there, you can't go wrong spending more time with your young one in their young years. I think it's more so for you even than for them. They'll be okay, you know, whether you're looking after them or nanny or daycare or grandma or whoever it's going to be that may be taking care of them. They'll be okay. You'll still be the dad or the mom, and they'll still love you. You're the last line of defense, their guardian, you know, their loved one at the end of the day. Um, but that time, the time that I've been having, you know, it's almost as much for me as it is for her.
Yeah, no,
And I'm really, really grateful for it.
it'll pay. Speaking from personal experience, it'll pay dividends for many years to come as that bond only grows. And it can, you know, I'm sure there is frustrating moments, you know, when you want to be able to focus on something but you can't. But those
Those
the
are
good times
yeah, those are
outweigh.
like fleeting and rare, I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's something anybody who has the ability to make that happen, definitely co-sign there. And do you have any tricks from, you know, since you're kind of flip-flopping, going from kind of the work to the family mode, you know, when you have to split the time in the day? I know sometimes that's a struggle for me. You know, I like having, when it comes to the work side, I like having blocks in a real world, just kind of be able to focus and create. And you don't really get that too much when the kids are coming around. But anything that you found that's worked?
I mean, my wife and I do a really good job of just balancing the times of, okay, I know I'm going to be busy for an afternoon. I have a podcast, I have a client, I have whatever it's going to be. Okay, you know, honey, I'm not around. I either need you or maybe, you know, my mom's going to come by and look after, you know, the baby for a little while. So we've been very good, you know, communicating is key of just, okay, I'm busy here and you're busy there. Okay, let's make sure someone's available. Um, so yeah, just, you know, making sure that we're planning ahead for her, for the day, for the week, is very key. And we've done a really good job of that, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely being on the same page with your partner is
Yeah.
step one.
Yeah. And I mean, I think as with everyone, you know, there are some issues you are on the same page. There's a few you may not be. And, you know, you know, no one is ever going to be exactly aligned in every single facet of everything you want to do. You know, being willing to accept that you can't get absolutely everything right. You want to homeschool your child and only eat carnivore. Well, it's all and have sunshine for the circadian rhythm in the morning and the evening and wake up to see sunrise. Like all these, you know, things that sound great in theory, and I'd love to be able to do all of them. It's like just the reality of how we have to live our life. You know, we can't accomplish every single thing, and maybe it's not something we both agree every single time on we want to do, and that's okay. Like, you know, she's gonna experience things that she's not gonna like or that are gonna hurt her, and she's gonna experience things that she's gonna love and are gonna help her. And you know, we're just there to support her every step of the way, and at least try to put her in the best, you know, situation she can be in.
Very, very well said. And I'm sure a lot of those beliefs kind of came from both of your upbringings. When you look back at kind of yourself as a kid, are there any values or parenting lessons that you take from that time that you think is kind of sending you in this direction or has sent you guys in this direction?
So there's sort of two competing things for me personally, if you want to think about it that way. So my mom ran a business out of the house, and she purposely, she probably could have grown her business bigger if she wanted to, but she purposely chose to keep it in the house so that she could be around for my brother and I. I have one brother. So she was always around the house, and she'd be working sometimes, but like she was always there if we needed something. Conversely, my dad worked his ass off. He worked really, really hard. He works long hours. It still does. I don't think he has to as much anymore, but he just, he loves what he does. So he was always working, and I wouldn't see him quite as much, especially in my younger years. And, it's interesting that, we've had conversations, he and I, about that over the years. And, he was providing for us, and that's what he had to do to provide. And, I probably missed something from him not being around as much, but I also gained something in terms of, okay, he was able to give my brother and I and my mom, a great, great life and a great start in our lives and a good education and good environment and family and all that stuff. So as much as I appreciate that, he had to be away more, I like that I get to be, I'm similar to my mom in the sense that, okay, I've sort of set my office up at home. I'm at home. I can do what if I'm going to write, if I'm going to do client stuff, or podcast or whatever it may be, I can just do it all from here, and I get to be around and see her and help her with whatever she needs at any given point in time. So, there's a duality in everything in life. I've seen sort of both sides of that perspective, I guess. And I appreciate that, there's a need for both sometimes, but, it is really, really nice if you can spend as much time as possible with your kids.
Yep, no, definitely that perfect answer, and being able to have that duality, and then pick your path is probably the best part of it all.
It gives an appreciation too, right? Like there's a level of appreciation for, okay, that, I get to be around.
Yep, no, for sure. Sticking kind of with the family thing and going back to the fact that, before you had your daughter, you were a very involved uncle. What did you learn from being an uncle that you've taken into fatherhood?
Oh, good question. I just had so much fun being an uncle. You learn to just be patient with kids. I think I was always pretty good with kids, as I'm told anyway, from other friends and whatever that have had kids. But just, getting to their level, right? And meeting them where they are, because they can't meet you where you are, in terms of what you may want to do or how you want to act or whatever, just coming down to them and, playing the silly game they want to play. I guess I obviously spent a lot more time with my nephew. That was basically, he was born right around or shortly before I left my last full-time job. So I got to be from the couple months after he was born, I was just around and I could be an uncle. So I would go over and just spend all kinds of time with him. This is my first nephew, and now he has a sister too. He has a little niece, or I have a little niece, I should say. So yeah, just learning to be around and appreciate just hanging with him. I don't know. I don't have a great answer, I don't think, but just appreciating what it is to see a little kid and let them grow and flourish and even make mistakes. Right? That was one thing. I guess that's something I did kind of learn from my nephews. As a parent, there's maybe this instinct that you just want to protect every little thing and make sure they do every little thing right. But that'll never happen. Like that's not possible. And the more you cower over them and do the helicopter parent thing, it may make things worse both for them and for you. And you create this tension and get away from me, dad, uncle, whatever, like stop lording over me. So I think I probably learned a little bit to just be a little hands off, not all the time, but just try to notice the moment that it's called for. And I definitely try to apply that as a dad.
And I'm sure all that time spent as an uncle in some way gave you confidence to know that when the time came to be a dad, you would, not that you would know everything, but you knew, and, you had that confidence level to know, hey, I've helped be around my nephew for all these years.
Yeah.
I enjoy doing it. Kind of kind of at least had that side going for you too?
I was oddly like not anxious about becoming a dad. And I don't necessarily think it was from being an uncle or anything, although I did, I purposely changed my nephew's diaper like just like 3 times, just so I could say to him, listen to me, you little kid, when you were a little runt, I wiped your bum for you. I changed your butt. Um, just in case I ever needed to throw it back at him one day. So it was okay. Like I wasn't afraid of diapers or anything like that. And again, that just goes on autopilot. Like after a couple days of doing it, it's just, you don't even think about it. Um, yeah, sorry, a little tangent there, but
No, for sure. And you can also show him this clip now that it's on a record that you did it. So if he
yeah.
comes back to bite him in when he's in high school, you can embarrass him.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. And so we've also mentioned you're an author, obviously, to give another plug for Magic Internet Money, which means you're kind of a storyteller. And so in your household, how do you use storytelling as your family, not just related to Bitcoin, but bedtime stories, reading books, that sort of thing? How's that involved?
Yeah, I haven't incorporated it, let's say, into like lessons for my daughter yet because she has words but not comprehension too much yet, or she can identify things but she can't compute so much yet. But when reading, one of the tips I got was sort of have a flair for the dramatic, put passion into your words, right? So if you're reading a book like and a character's going on an adventure or they're being cuddly and they're hugging, the bunny is hugging the baby or whatever it's going to be, just add a little, charisma to the story, play it up for her or him. I think it gets them more interested and involved. So, if you're singing them songs, right, be silly, have fun with it. Have fun with it is probably a really good lesson in there. But yeah, it keeps it fun for them too, right? It makes reading, which sure, it's a nice thing and it's something we want them all to do. But if you want to get them interested in it, it can't be monotone, right? It can't be boring, and there has to be a level of excitement to it. So bringing the charisma to it is one thing you can do to help out with that.
For sure. Does she have any favorite books besides the Shamri books, obviously?
Yeah, besides the Shamri books, we have there's one called Sleepyheads, which is, I mean, she's also gone through these little waves and phases where she's liked them and not liked some. Sleepyheads has been sort of consistently a favorite. Goodnight Basketball, I think it was like a Sports Illustrated one. She's always loved. Like we had this expression. My dad played basketball, sort of always from junior high and high school and university and camps and all kinds of stuff. And he's still to this day, he's almost 70. He plays with me. I've taken over his pickup game, and now it's mostly my friends that play. And he's sort of the last of his vintage that is still in that run. So we have an expression, burgers play basketball. And, we sort of repeat it to my daughter a little bit. And we have a little, the Tiny Tykes basketball net in the basement. And, she'll go, shoot the ball, or shoot ball. So she's sort of taken to it. And so she likes basketball. So she's been really into Goodnight Basketball. And there's a handful of I have a dozen books on her nightstand that she has to choose. Mooba, Mooba La 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 is one. But I personally really love telling the story of Sleepyheads. I find that, I have fun with that one. It's like this animal's a sleepyhead, that animal's a sleepyhead, this animal's a sleepyhead. And then, oh, there's the owl. That one's not a sleepyhead. That one's been asleep all day. And she like lights up. Oh, the owl. So yeah.
It's funny how they gravitate to single pages in certain books.
Totally.
Zoe has that same thing with it's an Abby book from the character from Sesame Street. And there's one page where Abby uses her magic wand to turn the prince into a frog.
Yeah.
And you go poof. And she just starts cracking up, just knowing what's gonna happen. She starts laughing as soon as the page is turned. Without us reading it, she knows what's coming. But yeah, so know exactly what you mean there, where they predict it and they laugh at
it. And the one the moo ba la la la, I think it's called. It's the opening. It's a cow says moo, a sheep says ba, 3 singing pigs say la la la, and then the next page is no no no, that's not right. Pigs say oink all day and night. And basically, when we go no no no, she goes no no no. She knows it's coming.
Yep. No, it's super cute. Any plans? I know you've had people ask you to turn your book into a kid's book in the past. Any plans on that now that your daughter's getting of age?
I had this, I may have even talked to you about it at one point, that it not necessarily that my book I want to turn it into a kid's book, but that I would consider writing a kid's book about Bitcoin. It's still something I think I'd like to do at one point. And I always thought that, like, oh, it's low hanging fruit. I'll just, it's a kid's book. It's not like writing a real book. It's a little nursery rhyme or whatever. And it was harder to, for me to just pick a storyline or theme I wanted to run with. And so I never landed on sort of the rough outline that I wanted for it. So I never picked up on that. And I do have another sort of book project it's like 2/3 written. It's been on and off for a couple of years, and it's something I do want to finish. It's nothing to do with Bitcoin. It's sort of a personal reporting job story. It's not a job, but it's like a personal story I've been following for a few years, and I've written some posts about. And I kind of want to put these posts together and make a book, and add one final, put a big bow at the end of it with a new piece. Not something we need to go into on this podcast, but all that to say, I do love the idea of writing a kid's book about Bitcoin. Obviously, as you know, and I'll show it off again here. With my book, it's not just the cover art is kind of unique, and I designed it all. I didn't draw it, but my designer called me the creative director of it. So I was directing the creation of the cover. But there's also a number of, and I'll show you here, sort of full page images. So this is the picture of, you could think of him as the antagonist, as the banker man. It's sort of a cross between Uncle Sam, the Monopoly man, and like the anonymous businessman with the apple on his face, except I have a dollar bill in front of the face. So I have, him, and then I have the wizard as my protagonist. And I'll quickly flash a photo of the wizard, or here's the wizard and the banker man together, where the wizard is pulling back the curtain on the evil banker man who's manipulating all the prices via the money supply and interest rates. So I have this protagonist and antagonist, and I think it would be cool if I could put together some kind of story with those two, but I'm sure not happening just yet.
It's okay. It'll happen one day. It doesn't matter when. Well, here to help promote that when it does happen. Have you ever had any successful stories or times being able to explain Bitcoin to a child? Maybe to your nephew, whoever, anything.
No, the one thing I did that I think was probably the most helpful for both my niece and nephew is I bought them T-shirts when I went to the Bitcoin Atlantis conference in Madeira, and I actually took my dad to it. He was like, he's sort of supportive of Bitcoin, but doesn't know enough about it, and is always curious about me. And like, what are you doing, Jesse? Like, what's happening here? Like, I know you're doing okay, but like, what's going on here? And so he came along and sort of got the full experience and listened to Sailor talk and everything. But at that conference, they had some cool kids swag, and so I got my niece and nephew each a T-shirt, and it's he told me, I saw him wearing it, whatever it was a few weeks ago, and he's like, yeah, I was in class. I said, Bitcoin's my Bitcoin T-shirt, Uncle Jesse. I'm like, yeah, kid, like, good for you. So I haven't had success teaching them what it is per se. I am interested. I know you have like a ledger product, which
that's ledger, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I couldn't do it with my nephew, I don't think, because I'm not with him every day or anything. But that seems like something I might try to introduce to my daughter at some point. And I have obviously Shamory the game, and I think do I have Goodnight Bitcoin? I have the first and second book. I can't remember.
I think you have both of them. I'm pretty sure. If not, we'll change that when we teach it.
I think because I gave it to I bought it before I had a kid. I was like, we talked, and you eventually came out with that. I'm like, well, I got to get it. I don't even have a kid, but I'm going to buy it to support you. And then I gave it to my nephew. So maybe I'll get it back from him because he's probably done with it now. Or I'll just get another copy when I see it at the conference. But yeah, one of these days I should really follow up on that story, because I think there's something there. I think you can have a lot of fun with it too. Telling stories of Bitcoin, the beauty, the great thing I think for kids and orange pilling kids is they're a clean slate in a sense, right? Like adults, when we try to orange pill adults, we have all these preconceived notions about money. Adults have a lot of preconceived notions. They think they know things. Ego gets involved. It's probably less true with kids that there's ego involved and, that they have preconceived notions. So maybe it's easier, and we should be trying to get through and teach them how money really works and what it really is and why it matters and all that. So I can't say I've had any success, but I sure do hope to have success, in the not too distant future.
And I think you'll see, especially with your daughter, she grows up just being around you and seeing you interact with it. It just becomes second nature, and it's just another form of money out there. At least that's how it's worked for us. And um, like you said, it's much easier teaching them about these
The
things than adults.
the Bitcoin by osmosis thing is definitely real. Again, my wife, she went to a work function. This was a couple years ago, and Bitcoin's not her thing. She knows, she's happy to let me do it, and it's not. I mean, I'm doing it, but it's just like she doesn't want to learn about it, and that's okay. She doesn't have to take all the time and learn all the nooks and crannies of it. But basically, she was telling me a story once. She went to a work function, and like, oh yeah, what does your husband do? You make chit chat at these things, and she goes, oh yeah, my husband's a Bitcoiner. We wrote a book about Bitcoin. He teaches Bitcoin, and so they started asking her questions, and so she came home afterwards, and she was like, I was just answering their questions about Bitcoin and how it works and why it works, and they're like, how do I know this stuff? And I'm like, yeah, you got sort of orange pill by osmosis, but yeah, that'll happen. That should happen to my daughter too,
Yep.
like you're saying.
Even easier. No, that's a fun story. Why do you why would you say it's so important for Canadian families and parents to learn about Bitcoin? What would you say to those who haven't learned about it yet, that maybe are curious or maybe aren't curious yet, and really have a wall up? But what do you think that importance level is there as things move forward?
Yeah, I mean, whether they're Canadian or not, right? All parents should know about Bitcoin themselves, number one, just as a tool for, a property right that you own that can't be seized or is exceedingly difficult to seize. Um, that is scarce and right. All the sorry, we don't have to rehash all the great benefits of Bitcoin. But it's because of all those benefits that you should be teaching your kids. And it doesn't have to be that it's the be all and end all. Like you said, it can be more like this is a thing, it's here, this is what it does. It exists in a world among other options, and we're not getting away from those options. It's not like, we're just going to flick a switch and suddenly everyone will use Bitcoin and dollars don't exist. It's going to take a long time before we get to a stage where dollars don't exist. So in the meantime, understand the differences between the two, and so you can highlight the characteristics. And that really should shine a light on all the benefits of this versus the other one. And I think a lot of people need the context of sort of why fiat or other forms of money are inferior to make Bitcoin's superiority shine. If you just highlight Bitcoin's superiority, without the world understanding the world in which it exists, those benefits don't seem to resonate and hit. So parents of all stripes should do it for themselves, for their wallets, but also again for future planning for your children, to put them in a better spot financially, to secure their future. In a sense, it's important, and to make sure that they don't squander their future too.
And what would probably one of the common points you'd hear back is, hey, oh, that's great, but it's just too risky. I have kids, I have a family. I don't want to, I don't want to have that quote unquote risk. Is there a way you'd come back to that and say, hey, as a family, you should actually, it's even more important for you to kind of learn and go down that rabbit hole to at least make that decision in an educated way.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yes, you want to be educated about it, but anyone who brings up risk, we can talk about risk. It's Bitcoin isn't sure we can say there's risks in Bitcoin. I mean, I think they're marginal or smaller compared to everything else, and that's important context. You think you own a stock, GameStop. The whole GameStop fiasco a couple years ago said maybe you don't, right? They were, oh, you can't sell it. You don't get to operate in standard market hours the way other people might get to operate in standard market hours. Every asset has its different risks. Yeah, real estate, sure, seems really sound secure, but it's not really liquid. Governments start to get uppity. You can't just up and take your real estate with you, and it's going to be hard to get out from under it if things go sour, and its value might fall if things go sour in your country. So it's something to keep in mind. Bitcoin doesn't, again, Bitcoiners who are like all in, that's one thing. But for the average, quote, average person, you don't have to go all in, but, it's an important asset to own because it can take in effect its existence in a portfolio might take away from the other risks that exist. So again, context matters. Storytelling helps with that. But putting that context around all the other assets you might have and their risks that maybe you're not constantly thinking about when you're trying to picture Bitcoin, that can maybe help frame Bitcoin a little bit better as something that, you know what, yeah, there's something here, there's some benefit here. I should try to own it and own it the right way, not just buy an ETF, right? Like try to have some where you control it. Doesn't have to, you don't have to think the end of the world is coming and that, it's the everything else is going to absolute zero and everything, but it's like there are real benefits to this asset. And if you're not in a position to take advantage of them, I mean, then you're never going to get to benefit from them.
Then you might be putting your family behind.
Then you're putting yourself at risk, at a bigger risk.
Exactly. Well said. Kind of getting to the tail end here. What's one big dream that you have for your family as you look ahead?
Oh, I mean, I do want more kids, number one. To give my daughter just a really help her so that she has a good head on her shoulders. Again, I can't control everything she's going to see or learn about and experience, but help her to have the right temperament and make right decisions. And that goes for all my, future kids too. And just give them a really nice quality of life. Yes, you're going to do things you don't want to do. You go to school and maybe, what homeschooling or public school or whatever your option is going to be, sometimes you may get bored and frustrated and you have to do things you don't want to do. And that's okay. So long as it doesn't become like a grind, right? And so you have to be able to experience life in all its other ways, whether that's as a Torontonian, in the summer we go up sort of by the lake, and in the winter maybe we have some ski hills, I'll call them. I won't call them mountains because they're labeled mountains, but they're more like ski hills a couple hours north of us. Maybe we get to spend some time up there, so that she can experience, the joys of winter. Winter doesn't have to be all just, snow up to your waist and stay inside, right? There's lots of great winter outdoor activities. So I want her to be able to enjoy nature, to enjoy the different seasons, find the beauty in all of it. That's really important. I don't have a specific dream of I need to own a house or a second home in this location or that location, and I need to travel to all these countries. Like, sure, I'd love to travel and see everything there is in the world. I'm not expecting I'll get to go everywhere. There's a few places I still would like to go, and hopefully I'll get there with or without, my daughter. Maybe some, I want to go to Riga, Latvia for the Honey Badger conference and BTC Prague one day. I've been to some places in Europe, but I haven't been to those places. It would be really fun. I don't know if that's going to be a family event. So there's personal dreams, there's family dreams, there's a little bit of everything. I don't have a lot of hard goals in mind. It's more just, keep veering towards better and better quality of life and better outcomes.
That's a perfect way to summarize it up. And put the exclamation point on it. Very well said. So before we move on to the final two questions that we end every show with, I just want to remind everyone watching to visit SeanRay.com. If you are a family out there, feel free to grab our books, our game, anything between our fun monster characters. Feel free to use code BFF Show for 10% off. And with that said, let's dive into those last two. And so a common saying, as I'm sure you know, in the Bitcoin space is Bitcoin is time. Another belief is that time is the scarcest asset the world has ever created. So playing off of all that, what is the biggest gift of time that learning about Bitcoin has provided your family? I think we touched on some of that, obviously, but anything new come to mind?
Yeah, we sort of touched on it. The fact that I was red pilled on Austrian economics and sound money before I even knew anything about Bitcoin. So I sort of became a gold bug first because gold was sound money to me in 2008. In 2009 when I was first getting into this stuff. And then sort of, that Bitcoin crept up and it all combined together. And I said, okay, yeah, let's swerve away from gold and towards Bitcoin. But spending the time to learn about Bitcoin, which I did while I was at a full-time job, has paid dividends in the sense that, like I said earlier, the 9 to 5 that I might have otherwise been away from my daughter, I've gotten to be with her for so many extra hours. So it was basically the most worthwhile thing I've ever done because I can't put a price on that time that I've gotten to have. So yeah, you spend time, but you also need to spend your time wisely, and it's not always easy, and we all make mistakes. And I've made plenty of mistakes, leading up to being a Bitcoiner and as a Bitcoiner. But Bitcoin has maybe helped me focus more and be more discerning with what I get to do or don't do.
Yep. Oh, exactly. No, co-sign all of that, 100%. Okay, the final question. If you had one Bitcoin to give each of your kids or future kids, at what age would you give them the keys and why?
I think the only answer to that question is 21.
It is the most common answer so far. It's a
Yeah,
limited episode so far, but that is a common theme here.
yeah, I'd imagine, maybe you'll get a 16 or an 18 or 25 or something, but 21 seems to be about an age. Again, if I think back to my experience as a teenager and as a young adult, um, I certainly wasn't fully formed in my uh, knowledge and thought processes and my, just my views of the world by age 21 or anything. But by that point, I had grown to appreciate the responsibility that comes with decisions. And I think it's something that's very difficult to fully grasp as a teenager, no matter how advanced a teenager may be. You need just, a little bit of life experience under your belt. And that's not to say that by 21 you have so much, but you've at least got a taste of life experience, hopefully by then. So, and you can't necessarily wait too long because then you know, you're holding on to it for selfish reasons at that point. Again, if you understand that you've made mistakes in your life and your children are going to make mistakes in their lives, and that's part of life, at some point you have to give them the reins. So 21, yeah, is it the perfect spot? Would I rather them be a little bit older? Would I rather it be milestone related, like have your first kid, then you can have your Bitcoin? That could be, it could be milestone related. It doesn't have to be age related. So, I mean, I said 21, I'll stick with 21, but I'll put the caveat that, you know, maybe again, having a kid is like instant full responsibility, right? Like you and your wife, right? You are responsible for that life. No one else holds, has full responsibility for that life. So if you're able to be responsible for a young human life, at that point, I think you can definitely be responsible for, your inherited Bitcoin. So hopefully maybe those will coincide. We'll see.
We'll find out. And if they
But
have any trouble, they can just call the Bitcoin mentor and they can help out.
there you go. Yeah, sure. We'll plug my work at the end of the show here. So like as I said earlier, so I work with Bitcoin Mentor. We help people, learn how to use their Bitcoin, right? There's people who are still figuring out why they should own some Bitcoin. That's great. I do talks and stuff around that. But if you're already kind of a Bitcoiner, maybe you have some on exchange, maybe you have an older wallet that someone helped set you up with, and you want to level up, that's where Bitcoin Mentor comes in. We're trying to help create sovereign Bitcoiners who hold Bitcoin securely, know how it's backed up, why it's backed up, how to recover it if anything were to happen. We want to, enforce the whole not your keys, not your coin. Like we want to help build that ethos and make it stronger. And the only way to do that is to do the work. So that's what we're here to do.
Perfect. And I'll put links to all that in the show notes, obviously, in case somebody out there is interested in getting in touch with Jesse or the Bitcoin Mentor team in general. And well, thanks for being here. That's a wrap on all the fun family talk. It was definitely a good episode. Lots of great tips and tricks. Besides you just plugged Bitcoin Mentor, obviously go get Magic Internet Money, pick up a copy of that. I'm sure Jesse will be around at different conferences throughout the year. This is coming out after the Vegas conference, but if we time travel, if you see him walking around there, you can maybe grab a copy from him in person. Any other places you want to send them to connect?
No, go to my sort of bio. A link to my book and everything is on bitcoinmentor.io. You can follow me on Twitter at jberger or X. I guess now I can't bring myself to call it X. So JAYBERJAY. And yeah, I hope to, meet some people, whether it's at the Bitcoin conference in Vegas, which I guess is over by the time you're listening to this, or, hoping to do one or two other conferences throughout the year. Again, being a parent, I'm finding that I'm in and out on these things. Like I get there right in time for the conference. As soon as the conference is over, it's like I'm heading home to be back with the kid. So I'll be most likely in Montreal at the end of the year because we have the Canadian Bitcoin conference. I've gone to that for its first 2 years, and they're doing a third year. I may go to one of. I'm hoping to go to one of. I don't think I'm going to go to both. The Bitcoin Rodeo in Calgary or Learning Bitcoin in Vancouver. Both are really, really cool conferences, different conferences. Again, they're Canadian. I'm Canadian. So the Vegas one's going to be my big international one. If I'm lucky, I'll plug in one more before the year's out, but TBD on that still. So yeah, anyway, look forward to meeting people and feel free to look me up.
There you go. I'm sure some will be out there and, put a nice exclamation point on our episode here. Well, thanks, Jesse, for joining and everybody for listening. We'll catch you next time. Bye.
Hi, thanks for joining. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a good review. And buy your kids some stuff at sawmary.com today. Bye. 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 Bye.